Hey everybody, I'm Katallina, and today we're here to talk about episode 5 of Demon Slayer Season 4. I've got to hand it to them. They did something in this week's episode that I thought was very interesting and that I really respect them for. And that is the fact that although for the last few episodes we've been seeing a much more lighthearted and friendly tone where Tanjiro has been going to training ground to training ground and has been able to easily deal with whatever his old friends have been throwing at him, in this episode we actually see things start off in a way that makes me think, at least initially, that this is going to be the same script and that everything is going to continue to be easy. When we go to the Love Hashira's training and she is all happy to see us and everything because she met us in the last season and everything, and it was all cool, and we fought together and we've obviously earned some respect together, and she's all like, here, let me bake you pancakes, and that was all cute and everything. But then we get to her training and we see her like wreck a guy. Like, she takes his legs and it's like she strapped him to the rack and she turned the wheel, and then she's like, Tanjiro, it's your turn, and all we hear is just this wail of agony that's just echoing out as Tanjiro is basically made to do absolute splits by the pressure of the Love Hashira's legs. Now we got to remember, the Love Hashira's thing is that she's this absolutely adorable little powder puff of a girl, but she is actually super uber like giant strong. So having her do something to your legs like that, forcing them into the splits, I mean, anyone who's done any kind of gymnastics or anything would know that that can be absolutely excruciating to begin with. Having somebody force that on you though, especially with the amount of like strength and stuff that she would have, the amount of pressure, would be absolute nightmareville, and we absolutely see that. The facial expressions are exquisite, the scream was terrifying, and oh boy, if anyone thought that it was gonna end there and that things were gonna get easier, yeah, I've got some oceanfront property to sell you in Manitoba, because holy crap, dude, that is not what goes down. From the Love Hashira, we go to the Snake Hashira for training. We actually have 3 trainers in this episode, which was also really interesting. We're not slowing down as much for the characters now as what we were before, probably because we're getting into territory where we're meeting characters either that we didn't spend a lot of time with or that are more so new to us, and we don't have that connection to run a whole episode around, but it's okay because it was really interesting. Anyway, Snake Hashira. Well, he has a burr up his butt from the moment that we meet him, and it's actually not entirely Tanjiro's fault. The reason that the Snake Hashira has such a burr up his ass is that he actually views Tanjiro as competition over the Love Hashira, whom I would safely assume he has feelings for based off of how he reacted to her letter and the absolutely ice cold reception Tanjiro gets from him. Now, to be 100% fair and objective, he never really struck me as the kind of guy who was like a cute little koala bear or anything, but I never imagined he would have like a personal vendetta against Tanjiro. But when he got that letter, you saw the aura just pouring off of him. It's like, woo! This boy is jealous, like super duper jealous. Like, yo, Zenitsu in episode 1, you ain't got nothing on Snake Hashira, dude. Nothing. And he proceeds to put Tanjiro through training hell. Now, to be fair, I will say of the training he chose, it's actually very logical training, despite the fact that it was terrifying and exceedingly emotionally cold. It actually dealt with some really key things that Tanjiro needs to work on as a swordsman and as a demon slayer if he wants to make it through the kind of stuff that would potentially be ahead. It actually focused on trying to decrease Tanjiro's emotional empathy because he was actually in jeopardy of hurting people, and in order to actually succeed at the training, he had to become less concerned about whether or not he would hit his comrades rather than whether or not his strikes would connect in actually fighting against the Snake Hashira in their training sessions. It was also really important because what it was working on is sword accuracy, and to see Tanjiro actually making improvements movement and strides in growing, rather than simply being able to walk in and just one-shot everything that was going on, is extremely refreshing. Because the thing is, as much as Tanjiro has been our main character, he's super cool, he does a great job, etc., etc., we always have to remember the fact that Tanjiro is not at the top of the food chain. Tanjiro is still very much learning, and if Tanjiro is going to go forward and fight super uber bosses of doom, he needs to be able to actually convince the viewer that he is going to be capable of doing those things. So this training is absolutely necessary. It just really felt interesting, and it had an absolute vibe to it as he went through all of this. And I really enjoyed how it went down, and I thought it was actually funny that at the end of it, Tanjiro's like, he still hates me, which was amazing, because like every other character that he's dealt with so far has all been like, yay, it's Tanjiro, hi Tanjiro, we think you're great, Tanjiro, we think you're great when you start, we think you're great when you end. That is not the case here. And as I said, I think it stems largely back to the fact that Snake Hashira likes Love Hashira, and Love Hashira is friends with Tanjiro, and Snake Hashira, I would assume, has not shared his feelings with her in a concrete way, and thereby feels insecure. Those are my guesses. But if Snake Hashira was a bit brr to deal with, Wind Hashira, oh honey, that's a whole other level of abuse. Holy crap, dude. My favorite part of it, that was seeing Zenitsu trying to escape and just like crawling away. Please, Tanjiro, take me away from here, take me away from here. He's going to kill me, I'm going to die. It's like, oh my god, Zenitsu, I'm dying just watching you. It's just so fantastic. I love Zenitsu as a character. I mean, he struggles with everything, and then because of the way that his abilities work and what happens when he enters a sleep mode, he just like flips a switch. He is literally a sleeper hit, which is hilarious given the way that the character works. But he is not wrong about Wind Hashira being an absolute dick. Now the thing is, Tanjiro actually has a bit of nerve when it comes to Wind Hashira, because we gotta remember that back in season 1, the Wind Hashira actually slashed Nezuko through her crate. And yeah, Tanjiro has not forgotten that. But there's so much more to what happens with these interactions with Tanjiro and the Wind Hashira than the bygones not being bygones. What we actually get in this section that was really interesting, in my opinion, is interaction between the Wind Hashira and Genya, who we spent time with last season and befriended somewhat. And the animosity between those two is so heartbreaking, because at this point, all that poor Genya actually wants to do is apologize to his brother for the things that he said to him and the things that happened when they were like back in their home and everything. And the Wind Hashira, before he became the Wind Hashira, to be clear, actually had to kill their mother in front of Genya, and of course Genya was devastated. So that was really important. The way that the Wind Hashira deals with Genya is absolutely terrifying, and it really makes you question what kind of guy is this. And I mean, if the world was filled with people who were like the Wind Hashira, would it really be worth saving? It's a hell of a question, man. Like, this guy is twisted. But I will say this as well, in his own way, as much as I understand why Tanjiro wanted to get involved and wanted to help people and all that sort of thing, doing his natural Tanjiro thing, by the end of the episode, we actually find out that Tanjiro gets in trouble for actually fighting with the Wind Hashira. He actually gets a talking down to over it and stuff. Like, he actually ends up making some people higher up in the Demon Slayer Corps mad for what he did. And here's the thing, I think that one of the key things that we can take away from this episode is the reality that while Tanjiro's heart is generally in the right place, that does not guarantee that Tanjiro is going to successfully win every fight, or that every time Tanjiro makes a decision, that decision is going to be perfectly correct. I thought this was really interesting, especially given how everything has been going on with this season so far. It could be really easy for someone to argue up until this point that everything has been too easy, that there hasn't really been enough actual conflict, that Tanjiro isn't really growing or learning anything. And we definitely see that there is going to be stress ahead when we look at everything that is happening here. But even more importantly than that, in my opinion, what I wonder as a writer is whether they set up the opening of this episode and then everything that came after it to create what would be considered a tonal shift. Are we going to see something of actual consequence and weight and heaviness happen in the next 3 episodes? Are the fun and games of this section of the series over, and are we going to be moving on to something with more seriousness and more weight? And was this episode set up to lead us into that path? I'm extremely curious to find out what will go down with that if that ends up being the case. I really did enjoy this episode. I think we learned a lot more about a lot of characters. It was interesting seeing so many different people. It was also a bit of a shame we didn't get to spend more time with them, but that is what it is. Anyway, I'd love to know what you guys thought of this episode, so feel free to drop a comment below and let me know, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Talk to you later. Bye!